Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to rank all my Pat McGrath Mothership eyeshadow palettes. So this is the first video I am officially filming with my colourful hair, and I thought, what is the best way to introduce some colour into my channel? I'm going to talk about my most colourful and expensive eyeshadow palettes, so let's get to it. So for this video, I'm going to rank my palettes from least favourite to favourite throughout the video, and I do have 5 of the Mothership palettes. She has 11 palettes, I'm pretty sure, out right now. I obviously don't have all of them, they're very expensive, but out of the 5, which I think already is actually quite a big collection, I'm going to tell you why I'm placing them in the order they are according to my own preferences. And again, everyone's preference with makeup, different eyeshadow formulas are all different, so take this with a grain of salt. If you like a palette and I don't, doesn't mean you have to stop liking yours, and vice versa. If I love it and you hate it, that's completely fine. This is all just opinion based. Starting off in 5th place is my Mothership 3 Subversive eyeshadow palette. Now, the reason I'm placing this in last place is simply because I don't use this enough, and this is not a color story that I can use every single day. From what you can tell, I'm a very neutral and natural makeup person. I don't always opt for colors, but now I'm leaning more into colors, and this is just a little bit too smoky for me for every single day. I do occasionally reach for the special shades because they are absolutely stunning. I really like the shifts in them and the amount of shine they have in it. However, these shades are just not what I go for every day, and I have other smoky palettes that I enjoy a lot more. So for example, my NARS Climax, or even some other palettes in the Mothership collection I enjoy using a lot more, and these special shades aren't what speak to me a lot. So for example, whilst this gold really steals the show and it's a true kind of gold shine, I just don't find a great amount of use out of it because it doesn't really show off on my skin as much. This will look really beautiful on a deeper skin tone, but on me it looks a little bit dry and almost like patchy. And you can see this beautiful kind of blue pink shimmer, and it has these iridescent shifts. It's really beautiful. However, again, I just don't see myself reaching for it a lot. I have other blue shimmers that I enjoy using a lot more than these, and these pinkier kind of special shades I also just reach for other ones in her collection a lot more, so this is not one I get a lot of use out of. That being said, I do think that Subversive and Mothership 3 is the most Pat McGrath Mothership out there because it really embodies her brand. You have these really quirky color stories that really shows off her vision as an artist and makeup creator. I'm not a big fan of the later releases because they're so pink hued and they're so wearable. Whilst I must admit they're the ones that I would actually purchase and use and get more use out of, I feel like this was just something a bit more special. Her earlier palettes had a vision to them that most brands were and still are lacking because now it's so consumer based. So this is a really special palette in the color story. I really enjoy it for that. I do think the matte formula needs a little bit of work. It's a little bit hard to work with for me, but I do like the metallics and the special shades. They're really pretty. I just don't get enough use out of it. And I do like this packaging as well. I keep all her casing because first of all, it's expensive. Second of all, it's really pretty. I like to display them. I think this is just a very artistic palette, and I think it was really something that stood out in the makeup industry. So this one's really pretty, but not something I use a lot, so this is ranking in 5th place. The Mothership coming in 4th place is Mothership 7 Divine Rose 2. I feel like this is the palette that really started to put Pat McGrath onto everyone's radar because it was still wearable, yet it had some really unique shades. So for example, this duochrome we can see is super unique, and I honestly bought this palette because I thought this duochrome was so cool. It's this pink and green shift, and it's so smooth and pretty, and look at that. It's like a true chameleon shade, and it really is such a silky finish. It's like this baked formula, so it really creates that high impact shine. You can see it's a little bit different from the Subversive palette, which is a little bit more gritty almost, but unfortunately this shade, I don't get enough use out of it. It just looks so dirty on my eyes. It looks almost patchy and doesn't look the way I feel like it's meant to. So it's really hard for me to use this shade. I only use it as eyeliner basically. I don't like to pack it all over my lids. It just looks a bit weird. This color story, I find it too pink. I'm not the biggest fan of super pink eyeshadow. I like more browns and oranges, but because this is warm, I still get use out of it. The only reason this is ranking higher than Subversive is because I can still use all these shades on like an everyday basis, and I do like the formula of these more baked shadows a lot more. As I said, I just find them to be a little bit more like smoother to use. So for example, if you look at this gold as well, because it has a little bit more like orange to it, it shows up a lot more brighter and cleaner on my eyes as compared to this kind of almost brassy gold. So yeah, this warm tone really fits with my skin tone a lot better, and yeah, it's really nice formula. I do like the mattes here. I feel like they're a little bit more creamier to use in the earlier palettes as well in the formulation. I just don't find myself reaching for the super bright pink, the multi-chrome, and I feel like with palettes like this, you really need to use every single shade in order to justify the price point on these, and also just to get the most use out of it. Again, really beautiful special shades. I like these as some kind of extra something to vamp up your eyes and create a complete look, but it's not super special, I feel like. And yeah, like I said, just don't use these two shades enough, and I feel like they're the standouts of these two palettes, because if you color these two up, this is a pretty neutral palette. Those two extra pink shadows makes it a little bit special, but unfortunately that's what makes me not use this palette enough. So yeah, coming in 4th place, but I do want to give a shout out to the box. This is the era where they start having this really iconic face and like the rose crown situation. Very, very pretty and looks absolutely divine. Coming in 3rd place and going into my top 3 is Midnight Sun. Now, if you watched my channel for a while, you would know that this is my very first Pat McGrath eyeshadow palette, and I honestly have used this a lot. You can see I really love this olive tone. This is the perfect, I feel like, autumn winter palette because you have these cooler tones. It's a little bit more smoky and vampy. I actually get a lot of use out of it, and I do like the color story. This is something I use every single shade of, and it has my favorite shade out of all the Pat McGrath palettes, which is this beautiful shimmery champagne. This is absolutely incredible. It literally looks wet. Look at it. It is so stunning and reflective. It literally looks like moonlight. I adore it. And again, you have another one of these like gold shades. I feel like Pat McGrath always has a gold shade in her palettes, and this one, again, it just looks a little bit more cleaner on my eyes. It doesn't have that kind of green tone to it. It's a little bit more brassy as well, but a lot more wearable in my opinion, a little bit bronzy as well. I just really love this shade. I love this periwinkle as well, and like I said, this is a very smoky palette and I get a lot of use out of it. I think I did like a 1 palette 3 look with this as well, so make sure to check that out if you're interested. I think this is a really wearable palette, really beautiful, and I think there's a lot of special color stories to this as well. You have like an interesting periwinkle, you have this kind of olive, and I really like this burgundy as well. But if you do cover these two, pretty neutral once again, but I think you get a lot of use out of it. And this shade is absolutely incredible. I think it's one of the most beautiful reflective champagne shimmer shades ever. I enjoy it a lot, and I do think this is actually quite an interesting palette, and I would recommend this as like a first Pat McGrath palette because you get the interesting shades, you also get a taste of all the special shades, and they are pretty wearable. And this is actually a palette you can use for a lot of reasons, especially this brown. Very wearable, very versatile. You can use it over the crease. It's a one and done color. It's just very nicely done. However, that being said, my top 2 palettes I get a lot more use out of, and this is not something I reach for a lot nowadays, now that my eyeshadow collection has grown a lot. But when I first had this and this was my only Pat McGrath palette, I enjoyed it a lot, and I genuinely thought this was the only one I needed. Obviously I was wrong, I had a lot more, but this one's really pretty. And again, the iconic box, and I really like how it matched the periwinkle. I think it really is the essence of this palette. Like if you cover it up, it makes a huge difference. I feel like it's such a pretty palette, and I do think it is the standout. And I love purple, you can probably tell. So yeah, really love this palette, and I do like it a lot. Now, my top 2 palettes. I want to say my top 2 palettes, I'll show you guys my top 2 anyway. So I'll show them all at once. So I have Mothership 1 and Mothership 5. So Bronze Seduction, and what is this one called? I think this one's called Subliminal. Yeah, this is Subliminal and this is Bronze Seduction. I feel like these two are sister palettes, like the fire and ice situation. So they're very twinning, but I'll tell you my ranking of them. And I feel like it changes a lot, but right now, coming in second place is Bronze Seduction. This was my preferred palette out of the two Pat McGrath when I first had them, because I feel like the formula works a little bit more, it's more wearable, and I just feel like it's just easier to reach for. And I do like the special shades a little bit more as well. It's just a lot more wearable for me. But I'm into the cool tones and the blue right now, so unfortunately this is coming in second place, but both palettes are absolutely incredible and I do recommend them highly. I really love this ruby shade. It's just something really unique in my opinion. I think this is one of the most beautiful red eyeshadows you can ever get, and again, it's that similar formula to multichrome where it's really smooth, silky and pigmented, and you can see how reflective it is, almost like a satin. Very pretty. And I do like the multichrome shifts in the special shades, especially this kind of white. It comes off as this green and pale gold, which is really, really pretty. Like, look at that. It's so stunning and it looks really pretty on the eyes. In fact, let me put some on right now. Can we see that? That is so pretty. This is a palette I feel like you can reach for any single day and pat on the special shade, and it's just really user friendly. I also really like this shade. I feel like this shade is actually a really nice one and done shadow, but it does hard pan, which is why I'm not the biggest fan of it. It's almost like a putty formula. It's this brown with slight shimmers to it. It's a really pretty one and done, like I said, and it's very creamy, but this formula somehow just dries down on me, which I'm not a big fan of. I feel like it should work a little bit better considering the price, but it is what it is. Really love the color story, really love the formula, really pretty, definitely for warm tone lovers. And yeah, nothing to dislike about this palette. I think this is a great one to use if you think you can get a lot of looks out of it or something. It's just up your alley. Again, really pretty packaging, and I think this is one of her best like palettes where it's still a little bit more special, but definitely wearer friendly. User friendly, wearer friendly. Now let's move on to first place, Subliminal. Now this is a newer palette in my collection, but ever since I got it, I've been using it a ton, and this is the one I reach for because genuinely every single shade I get a lot of use out of. Maybe minus a sapphire, but this is a truly stunning palette and it's really wearable for every day. As you can see, definitely more cool toned, but I'm into the cool tones right now, and also it's approaching winter. Again, I really like how they have these kind of shimmer satin shades. They're very easy to use and they are very smooth and creamy. They're also one and done shadows, so that means you can get like a full complete look using just one shade. I feel like just blend and buff it. Look how smooth that is. It's very, very pretty. You can blend it out so it's more dimensional. It's just really beautiful, and I love the blue shifts to these. You can see in the mirror, this looks a bit more orange, but it's actually this blue. Let me show you this beautiful color. Oh, again, look at that. It just has so much dimension and shift to it. It's really stunning. Looks wet on the eyes, and who can forget this beautiful blue? It's the exact same formula as like the ruby red. You can see they truly are like sister palettes. They're so pretty, and I honestly think this is just a very well sought out palette because it's really easy to use, and even this pale gold, it's so pretty to just have a wash over your eyes. Look at that. It's just a really easy, I can reach for it and I know I'll get a really pretty look out of it. The formula is really easy to use as well. I would say the two mattes here are a little bit on the drier side, so definitely need to layer it on in small parts rather than a huge chunk and blending and buffing it away. But really pretty transition shade, all over shade, smoky shades. I just think this is a very beautiful palette and definitely the one I reach for the most. It's very beginner friendly, but again, a little bit more special with that blue. I think this is a safe palette to use, and honestly, I like the formula. I use every single shade over it, and this is just I love it. I also use this black as an eyeliner because what I really like about Pat McGrath palettes is that her shadow truly stays, and this black, when I use it as an eyeliner, it will not smudge, it will not go anywhere. It's absolutely just incredible. Really enjoy it for that reason, and I can't stop looking at this palette. I also want to share this shade. It looks white in the pan, right? But no, it is blue. Oh, look at that. It looks really similar to this shade, but this one definitely has like a pinkier beigey undertone. That one's like more blue and icy. Just a really pretty palette. I absolutely adore it, and I really like the casing on this one as well. It's the first Mothership, so it's the first one she's ever released, and it just looks so special. It looks like a snow queen, doesn't it? It literally looks so pretty. I missed this kind of packaging from Pat McGrath. Whilst I really like how her later packagings are all like very similar and they're great for collection purposes, I like how they used to all be a little bit different. I feel like that's just more aesthetic in my opinion, as like an artist kind of creative outlet. But yeah, back to palette. Formula is great, color story is great, get a lot of use out of it. So guys, that is it for me ranking my Pat McGrath eyeshadow palettes, and let me know down below what Pat McGrath palette do you have, what would you rank all of your palettes, and let me know, do you agree with me, disagree, what are your reasons, etc. I had a lot of fun swatching these out, and honestly, just look at the shine and shimmer to them. They are such beautiful palettes, and I do think that Pat McGrath palettes are definitely worth a try, especially if you're a makeup lover. Like me, I just always want to try out new brands, and her palettes truly are just top tier, and they are very worth to try, especially in the makeup community. I think they still have something special. I haven't tried their latest formulas where it's more like normal shadow. These are more like baked and they have those special shades, but I'm quite keen on trying them, especially number 10, the Moonlight Seduction, sorry. I'm quite keen about that one. Might pick it up, I'm not too sure. But so far, that is me ranking my Pat McGrath eyeshadow palettes. If you did like it, please give it a thumbs up or even subscribe to my channel and let me know what you would like to see from me next. But that's it for today, and I'll see you guys for the next one.